So the fiberglass is hardened up. I've got 2 layers on here. And what I've been using is this Dremel tool here, running at a slow speed and with a diamond cutting wheel on it here. This is what they look like when before they get used, and afterwards you can see the diamond part gets worn off. And I've been finding it takes about 1 wheel to do cut one of these radiuses here. And so what I'm doing is just cutting it right along the edge and separating it from the mold here. I've already done this side. And so there's some Kapton tape. That's what appears to be green underneath here. And so the next thing I'm going to do is try to unbolt this mold here and see if I can get this fiberglass cylinder to come out of the mold. These little wheels work pretty good, but they're not labeled, and I've had them for decades, so I don't really know much about them, other than it's the first thing I tried and they worked great. Thankful for that. So I'm going to try and get this out of the mold. It's just held and clamped by these nuts here. This is actually a motorcycle balancing jig for a wheel, but I found it works great for making this part here that I'm working on. So this next part might be a trick. Getting that to come out. We'll see. Get the threaded rod going anyway. Well, it looks like it's working pretty good. It's not sticking to the mold here. See if I can get this to come on out. Looks like there might be one spot there. Right in here, looks like I might need to do some trimming. Just wanted to hold on. Prefer using the knife. It doesn't kick up as much dust as the cutting wheel. On this side I cut right on the edge, and that might not have been a good plan. Over here on this side I actually cut onto the wood a little bit. Figuring if I needed to do it again I could turn the mold around. Let's see, I believe it might be separated now. There's just a little piece here that's like overlapping. There we go. And look at that, the Kapton tape peels off readily there. That's great. So now I just need to remove this other side. There's a nut internally there, so I can just spin that nut down on the threaded rod and knock the other side out. maybe not so easy. And another thing I want to do is come back in here. This is a test mold, but on the real deal, if there's a little bubble or piece right here, I can come inside here and coat that. This one's pretty good and pretty rigid. I think it's going to be fine. As the test, I think I just need to knock this out. I think a hammer might work. But the Kapton tape is a winner. It is coming on. There we go. What I was looking for, I wanted on the inside, I wanted a very smooth finish, and that's exactly what the Kapton tape gave me, and that will work great. And this is fairly rigid, but it will allow the RF signals to pass through on the satellite. And the mold is reusable. I can pull these staples out and reuse it if I wanted to. But like I said, this is the test mold. The real mold is got a different shape to it, and it's a little more complicated, but I just wanted to test out my materials on this simple cylinder. And I believe that's perfect. Okay, so I've had a chance to work with the fiberglass materials and test my technique, and everything seems to be meshing and working together properly. I ended up with a fairly good result, I think. I've got smooth edges on the inside that will effectively seal the nitrogen as it's in the antenna. And it's fairly rigid. I think it will hold the little aluminum part on there just fine, and also allow the RF energy to pass through. And so now I'm going to turn my attention to the more complicated mold. This is the actual part, and the problem is I've got to retain this this edge here parallel to this edge, and if I just wrap the fiberglass on there without doing anything, it would lift off of this corner and go to that corner. But I need it to be held down on this edge all the way to here and then go up. So I'm going to wrap it with very fine fishing line right along this edge here on the first layer, and then after that I won't need to worry about it. I'm just interested in the first layer of fiberglass being conformally sealing the tube that it's going to be mounted onto. And so all these things came from the fiberglass warehouse. I'm very happy with the materials. I got the fiberglass mesh. This is the medium. It's pretty easy to work with, and it's a little stretchy. And I'm using the slow hardener, which I like. It gives me more time to work with the batch, and I'm finding that I just mix a very small batch to start with, because it gets when it starts to set up, it only gives you about 20 or 30 minutes, and then you don't want to work with it anymore. And so that gives me just about enough time to get it onto the mold, and having this mold be able to spin like this is very helpful in a lot of ways. It allowed me to come through and cut it later. If I'd had a lathe, I probably would have used a lathe instead, but I'm using this motorcycle wheel balancer, and it worked fine for the job. It's exactly the right size, and I already had it laying around. I didn't really need to fabricate anything extra, but I like the idea of it. And the mold comes apart, and it also allows me to spin it and apply the resin onto the mold. And this is makes it easy, very handy to work with, something that you can spin around a cylinder like that. And then also when I removed the fiberglass part from the mold, it was also handy to spin it and cut it away, and end up with a fairly good edge here. So I get started on that, and looking forward to sharing the result with you. Thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed your day.